comic writer. Hello, I'm a comic artist, so I think that I am semi-qualified to tell you how to do things. Hello, I'm a comic artist, so I think that I'm at least semi-qualified to talk about character writing to you, considering I do it all the time. I hate myself, so I'm going to force myself to rant again. But I know you guys love the sound of my voice, don't you? I have written a lot of characters, and I've picked up on some ways to make your characters more interesting. Now, when you're writing a story like I am, it's usually going to influence most of the characters. As I mentioned in my previous video about writing comics, that you should definitely go read. But I'm going to try and expand on what I mentioned in that video and bring up new ideas here as well. The footage in the background is me doing different headers for the two comics that I'm working on, Nine Lives and a new comic that will be coming soon. The website is linked in the description. One big thing to keep in mind when character writing is their upbringing. Nurture versus nature and all that. The way a person is raised is going to influence how they react to things and overall the things they do and enjoy. If a character had a very open and accepting parents, then they'll probably act different than a character with strict parents. For example, Chris from my webcomic Nine Lives grew up in 1700s America. But his parents are open as they are not from Great Britain. His mother hails from Thailand and his father is from India, but has recently moved to Germany. His mother hails from Thailand and his mother hails from Thailand and his father comes from India. Because of this, the two taught him to think about people and their actions a bit more, and how to treat them based off of their actions rather than things that they cannot control. Now, Chris is a lot more open-minded, especially in the new world with a lot of modern concepts that he doesn't really understand. This has already been explored a little bit, but I'll be exploring it a bit more in his character as the story goes on, because this is a part of his character and it's not going to disappear. Your character needs to have core elements to them that will not change throughout the story at all. Chris is very naive and clueless, and no matter how much he learns, he is basically going to stay that way, because it's just who he is. Thea is a very rational character and is mostly the voice of reason, and she will continue to be this as bigger obstacles come their way. However, you need elements that will change over time and develop as the story goes on. And these need to be realistic. If a story takes place over the course of a couple days, then you're probably not going to get a lot of character development out of them. Well, unless it's through extremely traumatizing means. But if you have a story that takes place over the multiple months, like Nine Lives does, then you have a lot more room for development. People are always changing and learning from their mistakes, so characters should too. I don't really have an example from Nine Lives because that's kind of spoilers, but let's say you have a character that starts out very insecure and maybe even self-hating. Perhaps they have a character arc where they learn to love themselves and become more confident, maybe a little too confident. And then what if this is actually overconfidence and what if this overconfidence is just a facade and they're just pretending to love themselves to block out the bad thoughts? Their arc can be finally believing this confidence. You should also involve other characters in your character development. Say, if characters interact, they are going to influence each other through actions and conversation. What if there's a character who hates the confident character? What if there's a character who hates the confidence the fake, overly confident person has? Maybe it makes them feel bad about themselves and they start to become insecure. Maybe they confront them and find out that it's just a facade. This point leads perfectly into my next one. Development doesn't need to be good. Characters can gain flaws throughout the story. Becoming insecure, losing the ability to trust people, losing faith in their goal, getting depressed. You can also have these characters become villains, or maybe even end up against or at least end up against the main character, even if they started on their side. It's the opposite of a redemption arc, and these arcs are always interesting if written correctly. This character should have a reason to leave the main character. Maybe an argument. Maybe the character just straight up did something terrible. Maybe they're jealous of them. Maybe they kissed their ex at a party while drunk and now they're upset at them. I find the easiest way is breaking trust or boundaries. As I've said before, nothing should come out of nowhere. You have to foreshadow these things, give hints, show the fallout of these characters. How are we supposed to feel invested in this conflict if we didn't see it happen? Your main character doesn't have to be a good person. Why? Because it's boring. Have your main character do something absolutely fucked up. Have them make mistakes that hurt people. Maybe your main character is an unreliable narrator, telling readers lies to make their actions look good. Maybe they're mentally ill and don't fully understand the consequences of their actions until it's too late. Maybe people have flaws, and your character should have them too. They should be reckless, uncaring, merciless, not care about how many people they hurt to reach their goal. Make them a compulsive liar. Make them unable to see what's right or wrong in the story and choose the wrong answer because it benefits them. Maybe they're aggressive and angry. Maybe they're fake and don't really like their friends. Or maybe they often lose sight of why they're doing this. Perhaps you start out knowing that everyone in this story hates them, and you slowly figure out why. And for a perfect development of characters, you should do all of these things with all of your characters. They should all have their own depth. And you should focus on that for a good chunk of the story. Your character should make mistakes and learn from them throughout the story. They should have flaws that they struggle to overcome, and you should have consistent elements so your characters feel like the same person. Characters should interact and actually influence change in each other. Give your characters depth and make them as interesting as can be in a way that feeds the overall story and doesn't take away from it. We should be able to hear about your characters' private lives without it feeling like you're ignoring the plot or taking away from the story. Your characters are as important as your conflict because your conflict is directly related to your characters. Anyway, this is all my advice, and I hope this is helpful. If you have other writing tips or questions, then drop them down in the comments. And if you maybe go check out my other videos if you still have a couple more have any questions about this. And if none of the thank you all so much for watching. It is nap time now. With great power comes great need to take a nap. Wait. And it is nap time now. With great power comes great need to take a nap. Wake me up later.